are back for another episode of the Bad Ideas podcast with Kimberly Anne Zarute.
You got
Did I pronounce it correctly? All right. Victory. Well, tell us about you. So CEO of Allay Consulting, and you do like 9 million other things. But tell us about you. Like, how do you keep yourself busy? What are you passionate about? Where does the energy come from?
Yeah. So, I have Allay Consulting, which is the first business that I've ever owned. We've been in business for almost 8 years now. I think in July. It's coming up this year. It's crazy.
You've been through some swings too.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I started in 2017, been in the cannabis industry. We're a cannabis compliance and plant medicine compliance consulting firm. And I started in the cannabis industry in 2014 as a regulator. So I was actually the first cannabis regulator. Yeah. For a major metropolitan public health authority in Denver. It was great, and realized there was a huge gap, and I had never thought about owning a company in my life. It was not something I didn't come from entrepreneurship. I, grew up in a good family, but my mom didn't even graduate high school. It was very different. And so I was like, man, am I really going to try to do this? And it was a huge leap of faith. Thankfully, I had a lot of people, a lot of friends that gave me a lot of advice and, all of that. But essentially, I think owning your first business is the hardest part, right? Like, okay, what am I really going to do this? Can I really do this? Is this something and it changes your life. Someone who owns businesses, is their lifestyle and everything and their mindset is a lot different than, someone who just works a 9 to 5. There's good things and there's bad things. It's like not, nothing.
It's like life.
Yeah.
It's like life.
So
I think yours is particularly interesting because if anyone goes to your LinkedIn, you have like 9 different things going on.
Yeah.
Most of us stick with like one business, but you just kept going, right?
Yeah. Well, a lot of the things that I do are like thought leadership stuff. So Cannabis Compliance Alliance, you talked about that. That's just a bunch of compliance professionals in the cannabis industry that get together and do thought leadership stuff, right? We do webinars, we talk, we at conventions, we do all kinds of stuff. And then, I do expert witness work. I'm also a public speaker now, which is like its own thing, and it's like, okay, yeah, I'm doing this. I'm doing it all. So it has been a lot of that. And, now I'm starting a nonprofit and it's never ends. Once you have one, then you're like, I can do this. Well, I can do this too. Why don't I do this? And especially when you work in an industry that you're particularly passionate about and you care about the industry greatly and you want others to also succeed, you tend to just say, there's a need here. I need to fill this. I need to help people. Might as well just make it into a business, right?
Yeah.
It kind of just happens. I feel like, once you have one business rolling and it's profitable and you're doing okay, it's like, well, why not just do this and this and this? So,
and it's working. So, you're still standing.
Yeah.
Outside of lots of flying around. So you mentioned, passionate about the industry. I think it's hard from the outside looking in to understand how difficult it is to like break into something like this when forces as mighty as Uncle Sam are kind of standing in the way. And you've been on both sides. Like what brought you into it and what keeps you there outside of being successful?
Right. Well, thank you. You never know day to day. Some days I feel very successful and some days I question everything. So, I got into the industry kind of by accident, right? Like I was a wholesale food and restaurant health inspector. Like I'm a certified professional in food safety, certified quality auditor, like a big nerd, right? And I just worked in restaurants and did wholesale food manufacturing, and cannabis just became legal. And essentially in the department, they just looked around and said, oh my gosh, who is going to do this? Yeah. And I was essentially the only person that rose my hand, and I was like, yeah, I want to do something different. I want to learn something different. And I think that that's the difference, right? Is recognizing opportunity and saying, I want to constantly having a learning mindset. I think that is what most entrepreneurs have. That is different than like your normal average person, I guess. Yeah, when you're like, hey, that sounds crazy. It sounds like a lot of freaking work. And it was a lot of freaking work. And that's why most people didn't want to do it. But I was like, yeah, I'm going to learn this. This is going to be cool. I had no idea I was gonna turn it into a business or multiple businesses, but that's what happened. I look back and I'm very grateful that I decided to raise my hand and did do the crazy thing, because it led me to a lot of different opportunities. And in this industry, there is unlimited opportunities. Like everywhere I turn, it's like, oh my gosh, you could do this. You could turn this into a business. People need this. Like, I don't know, people who are like on the edge about, should I get into the cannabis industry or not?
Do it.
Do it. Do it.
You're hearing it from the source. This is your pro tip from Bad Ideas. All right. So you're one of our cherished few fearless people who see something crazy that's not fully developed in an industry that's not fully developed. And you're like, oh yeah, I'll figure it out. And you did, and you're still doing it. So our challenge on this show is finding a bad idea that you actually think is bad, which I'm confident we can do because we've found some doozies. But what do you think? We look at something crazy now and see if it scares you?
Sure. Let's see. I don't know. Watch me like it, you know?
Maybe. Well, some of these are ridiculous. I think so. Neither one of us has seen this. We'll make fun of it for a bit and naturally probably try to turn it into something else. But the guys on our team who find them, they look for things that like they're actually intended to be businesses, but they're fatally flawed in like the way they're positioned or, you know, how they're thought about. And I think in your industry, because so much is not formed, it's probably pretty hard to find something that's like completely doomed. But I don't know.
I've seen some doozies. I'm not going to lie.
All right. Well, let's see what we got. So our bad idea for today is horrible.
Oh boy.
It's probably super illegal too. I mean, you would know. So this is cannabis.
Is it cannabis business?
It's cannabis business. Well,
oh gosh. Okay.
It's a theme park. It's cannabis-infused water slides. So water parks with cannabis-infused water in slides and pools, claiming it provides a unique, relaxing slide experience. Is that even a doable thing? And
no, absolutely not. I mean, I guess here's the deal. In the industry, cannabis is a very broad term. Mm-hmm. So there are there's like 100 different cannabinoids in a cannabis plant. Mm-hmm. And THC is one of the cannabinoids that actually gets you high. Yeah. Whereas like CBD, right? That's a cannabinoid from a cannabis plant. And that's everywhere. And that it has anti-inflammatory properties. It has, anti-cancer properties.
It's totally over the counter, right?
Right. But you can buy it in a gas station because it's non-intoxicating. So you could say, hey, we're going to
put CBD in the water slides.
Right. Hemp infuse this. How you would ever know, I have no idea. Because in order to put something on your skin and actually absorb it, and actually feel the effects of it, you have to have certain like binding agents, right, in the like lotions to like be able to let your skin absorb enough of it for it to be a thing. So there's like some patches and there's some lotions that actually let you absorb the CBD or whatever cannabinoids are in it. But I don't from a public health standpoint, there's issues. Because when you put like oils, first of all, it's not water soluble. That is a huge problem, right? So it's an oil. It's an oil from a plant. So you could put it in the water, but
it'll just sit on top of the water
and be like really nasty because you get all the grossness from people. Have you ever taken a bath with like bath oil and like?
I've been to water parks. Same deal.
Yeah, it's nasty.
That's why it's basically chlorine, right? Like they have to burn everything in perpetuity.
Yeah, because they have to kill all that stuff. And like I said, it wouldn't absorb. Like I don't think you would even feel the effects of it, even if it was THC.
So just like an oil slide, you're just sliding around and use oil.
Yeah, you can make an isolate. So there's like a lot, but you use like pentane or hexane during the extraction process to make an isolate, which can be water soluble. But a lot of times they have kind of a shelf life or they're done poorly and then they separate anyway once they're like in the water. There's just a lot of things, and how you would like consistently keep the cannabinoids in the water without like really gross stuff happening. Also, they have contaminants in them as well, like molds and bacterias. that can grow,
So
within it.
your cost
Uh,
would probably be insane then, right? Because you'd have to
yeah.
constantly
Well, and
cycle in new.
here's the deal too, is like, hey, everyone, we're putting, cannabinoids in the water. How would anybody even know? Like I said, it's not going to absorb. They're not going to feel calm. They're not going to, like, it's, unless they're like drinking the water, which would be disgusting. Yeah, it's a really terrible idea.
Yeah. All right. I wonder, I think this is probably, have you ever been to like a big water resort that has a lazy river?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think like someone went to one of those and was thinking,
And we're like, yeah. So
wouldn't
what
this
they
be
should
cool?
do
Yeah.
and it would have to be 21 and up only,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and you would have to find enough people to go to a water park that are okay with getting that, if it does get you high, that high, right? Like, I don't know. But yeah, if they did like a lazy river where they just had like people walking around with joint trays, I feel like that would be better.
Yeah.
like,
Because then it's
like
just
lay,
glowing. Yeah.
lay on a thing, get a lit
Yeah.
joint and just the lazy river for like an hour while smoking a joint. That sounds amazing to me. Just like
I'm
a
sure this is what
cannabis
they were
resort.
thinking.
Right, which they
Yeah.
would have to get a license. Do you know what state it was in or
It's just
proposed
an
in?
idea. We have no idea. And we don't attach it back to the person in case people see the
No,
show and
good.
they're like, you're an idiot.
Yeah, no. But that's the thing is like also every state has different regulations. This would be illegal in most states.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you would need like a consumption lounge, I think, which means cameras everywhere. Your overhead would be out of control.
Yeah. Plus the product, plus cleaning. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
What I'm interested in, this is me just naturally trying to find some gold in everything. I think what I find really interesting about this, especially when you bring up CBD, is like maybe they weren't thinking about, I mean, it's a water park, so they probably were, but I'm assuming like altruistically that maybe they weren't thinking about a water park where you go to get high. Maybe there was more of a focus on like, how does the body consume through the skin? And I think, I mean, I'm interested in a lot of this stuff. I think a lot more information will come out over the next 3 or 4 years,
Yeah.
given the changes in public health, where we often don't think about stuff being exposed to our skin as being like harmful or beneficial. We don't really keep track of that. And I don't know the properties of any cannabinoids that could be absorbed easily through the skin, but like maybe that was or could be a direction of something like this. Maybe it's not so much a park, but more like a spa, like where you like
That
lie in
makes
a
more
tray
sense
of
to
something.
me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or and there are a lot of spas like in Denver because it's one of the most progressive, it's been around
Yeah.
longer there. So they have wellness spas that you go in and you get like CBD massages and stuff.
Just right on the skin.
That lotion that has the CBD in it has, like I said, a binder. I don't know the scientific word, but it helps your skin absorb it and you can actually get the benefits from it. But a lot of times if you're just like rubbing it on, it doesn't absorb correctly, right? Like there's just more science to it than like, hey, just be in a vat of CBD. Like,
or a water slide. Like just hop on.
Yeah, or a water slide.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing is you would have to buy isolate. It would have to be, water soluble because it would just be an oil on top, like oil slick on top of water. It's freaking disgusting. Like that.
You'd slide really fast though. All of the slides would be like Mach 6.
Yeah.
Extra lubricated.
So yeah, just kind of, there's like nanoparticle technology that they have that, infuses those kinds of things into water, but the overhead would be huge, right? Because you would have to constantly like reinfuse the water. And
what's the appeal? So Denver, you mentioned they have like spas where they actually put this on your skin. Like what are the benefits? Like what are people paying for? I mean, what does it do to you?
Yeah, so the benefits and like I said, there's a whole bunch of cannabinoids and all of them like CBN, CBG, all of them have different properties, right? The spas that I've seen that are mainly focused on CBD, there's a lot of like really great brands that do like face oils and, that kind of thing. And they're more readily available because they're hemp, right? Without the THC in it. It's legal
everywhere.
Across the board. So it's not, you don't have to jump through as many hoops. You don't have to have the security. You don't have to have 21 and up. None of that. Right. So that's why they exist more than like a THC one. Right. Like that would be a little harder to do. It's so, CBD has a lot of benefits that people have found, anti-cancer benefits. Anti-inflammatory. It's like a natural anti-inflammatory, which is really good, especially for people who have bad joints or bad back or like something like that. It has painkiller properties, not insane ones, right? It's not like, the same as lidocaine or something, but it does help. And just, it's just really like the wellness calming effect that it has. And I think that a lot of people, if they're going, hey, we're going to use lotion anyway. Yeah. Throw some CBD in it. Maybe it'll be better. I don't know, so,
I think we're zeroing in on a business here. I think maybe it's a stand or like a mobile unit that goes to the water park and gives you a CBD infused massage after you've slid through other people's bodily fluids for an afternoon. Maybe that's
like
the
a
business.
normal water park, and then you can have a CBD infused water, and you can
and get a massage like on the way out. Like they'll take care of you. They'll relax you from the stress that you've just been through.
Bombing down a slide. Yeah, I mean, there's so many good ideas and like bad ideas. Trust me. And we've run into this. There was this company one time that came to me with
story.
With that was doing the pods for the coffee machines, right?
Yeah,
the K pods. So they wanted to do that coffee that had THC infused. So your coffee in the morning. And a lot of people, I'm like, wow, do you like wake up and like get that high? Because if I drink like THC, I'm out. Like there's like no way I'm doing anything that day. But I also am like really low tolerance and like I'm a really, really bad for being in the cannabis industry. I can like smoke, but that's about it. And it's pretty interesting because they had that issue where the water and the oil wouldn't work. And so none of the THC was actually coming out into the cup of coffee.
So you're just buying coffee and paying for the THC, but not getting exposure.
And then when you tested the actual coffee for THC content, there wasn't any in it because all the oil floated to the top and then just like stayed in there. And it was like this huge thing. I mean, they spent hundreds of thousands of dollars like putting this together and trying to figure it out, and they knew
it was the right thing to do.
And I was like, and is there a market for THC coffee? I don't know, like that's the other thing that I was like, at least with me, I want my coffee to like wake me up and get me going. And there are some cultivars that are more perky and less like sleepy.
But they're all fuzzy.
Right. It's like you drink a cup of coffee and then go to work all day, like super high. Like, I don't know. I just couldn't, I'm not one of those people. Cannabis is for winding down for me, like not like going and working all day. So yeah, I mean, I get weird stuff like that all the time.
that could fit really well with the theme park stand. So on the way in, you get a THC infused coffee, and on the way out, you get a CBD massage.
I have seen THC infused like cream for coffee because it's an oil and it's fat soluble. So it binds to fat cells. And so that works really well, like mixing it with cream or, milk and then putting it. So that sometime I've seen that work, but
just a product.
Yeah.
It's not and then as creative.
I'm going to do one little creamer or two little creamers, depending on the level of high you want to be. I don't know.
So back to business fundamentals from someone who's created a lot of these herself. When, talk us through how your business got started. Like, how did you recognize, hey, this is something that people would actually pay me to do, or this is something people really need help with. So, it makes sense for me to take the leap and turn this into something, versus just saying like, let's put weed in the water slide. Like, how do you see that opportunity?
Well, for me, it was pretty easy because it was written on the wall. I was going to court a lot. As the first cannabis regulator, you go to court and you go to hearings a lot because everyone is fighting you. Everyone that I was dealing with all came from the like legacy market, right? They were all growing weed in their basement before, for 40 years before this, right? And so they aren't used to following regulations. They're not used to being regulated. It is intimidating for them. It's terrifying for them because a lot of them have done time for these activities. And so especially, it's like social equity people that literally like have felonies because of this. And now they're trying to like do it legitimately. Very different than growing it in your basement, right? And so I would go to these hearings and go to the court, and it was hundreds of thousands of dollars in fines. And I was disposing of product that was unsafe, whether it be pesticides or other contaminants, listeria, salmonella, all the normal stuff that is a problem with wholesale food and whatever. And when I say, disposals, like if there was a crop, I think the biggest disposal I did was $4.2 million in one day, which put that company completely out of business, right? That's enough that they can't recover from that. And, I remember the aha moment. I was sitting in a hearing, and there was this guy who had thousands of dollars, not hundreds of thousands, but a few $1,000s in fines. And he kept just messing up and not doing what we wanted. As a regulator, you can just state, hey, this is the regulation. You need to be in compliance with this regulation by this date. And if you're not, we issue you another fine. You aren't allowed to tell them how to fix their problem. They need to fix it. Your job is just to evaluate if they've fixed it or not. Because of liability reasons, you can't give them the answer.
Oh, yeah, because then if you give them something that's not entirely accurate, you are liable. That's so crazy.
It's crazy.
That's so crazy.
To me, it's nuts. It was really hard because I'm a helper. It was so hard to bite my tongue and not. And I just remember turning to my boss who came with me to this particular hearing. And I was like, why can't we just tell him it's a $6 part at Home Depot that would solve all of his problems and he wouldn't get fined anymore? But I can't tell him that. And I think it's ridiculous. And she literally looked at me and said, don't ever do that. Like, again, don't do that, and because this was an argument that I brought up many times. And she was like, he needs to hire a consultant. That is what consultants are for. And I went, a consultant? Huh. So I went home and I Googled.
I'm going to do that.
Cannabis consultants. And there were none. There were none that did what I do now at that time. And it was pretty obvious to me, like, okay, this guy would hire me. Guaranteed, because he's probably tired of just throwing money out the window. And people get very intimidated by regulators. And when you're a regulator, you're not intimidated by regulators. Like, my entire team are ex-cannabis regulators. We are really good at being that buffer between our owners and a regulator. So if something does happen, we speak their language. We empathize with them. They empathize with us because they know who we are, most of them. And it was just so obvious. It was like, okay, I either don't do this and I keep being a regulator, for the rest of my life,
or I can help
someone else do it and I kick myself in 20 years, or I do it and I fail miserably and then I go back to working for the government. It's like, it was pretty obvious with that one. And then once that business was doing well, because once you have one that's kind of going and doing its thing, I hired the best staff. They're amazing, pretty much run itself. I've been through some major changes, stress tests in my business, including COVID, right? COVID. I also got cancer 2 years ago or a year ago. Yeah. And literally couldn't work. And so I had to be completely removed from the company, essentially. I mean, I still kept running my business somehow, but not in the capacity that I was. And when you have those stress tests, you put other people in charge, you delegate correctly, you realize if I can structure my companies so that they can run themselves, essentially, then it opens up my time for other stuff that I care about too.
To start 6 more companies.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, I know it's a little crazy, but that is the way.
It's true.
That things happen.
It's true. I mean, you took the leap. I think that's the big piece. You did the big crazy, you bought the bad idea and proved that it wasn't so bad. And kind of paved the way for others. And then you created roles they could step into so they didn't have to do it all themselves. And it's, I think it's a really wonderful trade. You can do that and then they can help you. And it's almost like you bear the brunt of the stress and uncertainty for the first 4 or 5 years. And if you can survive that and build systems for other people to step into, then they get the benefits and you get the big benefits. It's a
I will say that the hardest thing for me was going from consultant to CEO and I don't take on clients anymore. I take on government contracts if they need me to. And I do expert witness work by myself. And then I just run the companies. And yeah, I mean, that was really hard because I really did love working with clients.
The service mindset, right?
Yes, I love like going in and doing audits and like talking to them and seeing their eyes light up when they finally understand something, and like, you know, watching a client go from we have no idea what we're doing to like, oh my God, we got this and we're badasses and we're not afraid of anything. Like that's what we're trying to do with our clients. And it is so fulfilling to like see that. And I get very small glimpses of that. Like I literally during my like all hands meetings, I'm like, okay, tell me the story of like your success this week, you know, and it's great because they all have it, and it keeps them going. It keeps them energized to like have that energy. And I literally do like payroll and stuff. It's so
which is not fun. Which
yeah,
is scary and not fun.
Right. But I do get to go to conferences and I do get to speak, which is like my favorite thing. So, you know, so I do get fun stuff too, but you know, I get to travel. I get to go to Spain and speak at Spanibus and, you know, rub elbows with like cool people. So
and start new businesses and do it all yourself again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the balance.
You get addicted. I feel like it's a minor addiction.
It's a major addiction. It's a major addiction. I mean, you're risking everything every time you do it, unless you have really good lawyers and you structure things the right way. But none of us are that forward thinking.
I think that if you, like I said, if you have one or two businesses that are bringing in money and they're good, running well, almost without you, you know, if you start another one and it doesn't work out, then it doesn't work out. And then, you know, you, for a little while, you're like, you know, tail between the legs, fine. You know, it's definitely always sad, but then you move on. I mean, most really, really successful entrepreneurs, it's like most of their businesses go out of business. Like most of them. So, you know, you can't really take it that hard. I think it's about grit, right? It's about like being able to be like, okay, that was stupid. I didn't done that. But it was fun, and I'm just going to move to the next thing, you know, and then you find the next thing. Because you learn so much every time you fail. Like you learn, there is no better learning experience than absolute failure.
Yeah, and the speed at which it comes to you. You're going to learn all of this right now. Okay, here we go. So in your future, would you say that there's cannabis-infused water slides? Do you think that'll be a thing that you pursue?
No.
That's a bad idea.
Yeah, I don't. No, that's a bad idea.
All right.
With the regulations alone would be impossible anywhere. Also, business model wise, like how many people are really going to pay for that? Like water parks are already going out of business because there's not enough people coming into them. I feel like with a cannabis infused one, it would be even less. Yeah, I don't know. I think that if you had a water park and you had a section of the water park that was like a consuming section.
Yeah, but then even more. Then it's like food regulators, right? Then it's like food and bev.
Yeah, but like you could have a bud bar. I mean, they have those at weddings and shit now. It's like amazing. So, you know, I think that and then they just wouldn't be able to leave that unless they left their cannabis there. And I think that would be great. I would love to go to a water park and be like, hey, I'm gonna go to the
have a brownie
weed garden and. It's like a beer garden and then smoke a joint and then go back out. You know, I feel like that would be good. But
all right. So as long as it's contained, as long as it's not the whole park.
Yeah. And it depends on the regulations of which state you're in too. So like we would have to seriously work it out. But
so the three people watching this episode that are like, we're going to do this and we're going to make it work. How do they call you guys to help make sure that they don't screw it up? I'm serious. How do they get in touch?
They can reach out on our website, www.allay consulting.com. That's probably your best bet. Check out our website and then fill out the form and I will get back to you personally.
Awesome. Cool. And if you have, I don't know if you publish on your own personal site, like a speaking schedule, but if you have a link to where people can come see you speak or, you know, shake your hand or share their worst ideas with you. We'll publish that with the episode too.
I do have a speaking schedule on that website. So and then we do a blog every month. And then I also write in the Cannabis Science and Technology magazine, do a Stuck on Compliance. It's really fun. And then we do a newsletter. So if you want to
Awesome.
sign up for a newsletter, sign up for a newsletter on the website too.
We'll get some links out. Thank you so much for coming by. This is an ugly one, but I think you found a way to make it fun. And thanks for sharing so much of your background and your experience. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me, Nick.
Yes, we'll do it again.